Kuntreis Umayan, which not every other hemshech or set of my maram has this mila, is that the Frierdiker Rebbe touched it. Now, what happened when the Frierdiker Rebbe touched any mimer or hemshech, whatever it is it got a kitzur, which means that after every paragraph there's a little recap of everything that was important that we learned the day before. So I don't even have to think about how to recap and then go off on tangents about the recap. I can just read the kitzur, and that contains the essence of what we need to move on. So the kitzur that he has over here.
Why did the Frierdiker Rebbe do that though? Was that his style?
Yeah, I believe that was just the style. If we want to start talking kabbalistically, of the seven rabbeim, each one of them was represented by one of the spheres, and the Frierdiker Rebbe being the second to last, represented by Yesod. And Yesod, the function of Yesod is it takes the other spheres before it, which come in the form of the Hechsadim or the Hegvoris, but it takes those five spheres before it, and it contracts them into a way that it can be appreciated by Malchus, because Malchus brings it into the next level. So brings it into a completely different form. So Yesod is the thing that makes the contraction, the thing that makes the refinement in a sense. So it's very fitting in a sense. I don't know if this was intentional in the canon of the Chabad Rabbeim, but somehow it ended up being the Frierdiker Rebbe very much personifies this in many, many, many different ways. Another thing that the Frierdiker Rebbe is known to have a mila in is he has an amazing mila in being able to give over a story. Better than the Rebbe. This is like a thing that people don't like to acknowledge, that someone could have a talent that the Rebbe doesn't have.
More basic. I'm not basic, but it's more easier to understand.
He's able to say a story, and you feel like you're in the room. I haven't heard like a recording of him saying a story, but I've read books of his. He wrote memoirs. He wrote about the history of Lubavitch, and it's some of the most fascinating writing I've ever read. And obviously, I like the story. Like, it's an interesting story, but like he writes a story, and you're in the room. I've literally cried because he says like a story that's so emotional, and like you feel like you're there, mamish. So he has a major chosh in writing. He has a major like talent in writing. But anyhow, one of the things that he did was he made kitzurim, and now we have a kitzur. And now that we've gone on a good 5 minutes, I don't know how many minute tangent about the Frierdiker Rebbe and writing kitzurim, now hopefully this will be the last time we need to do that, and we can just do the kitzur, and we'll be able to move on b'chlal whenever we start a new point. So anyhow, so the kitzur of the last ace is shittim sharshei shita. The root of the word shittim, when it says cedar wood, the root of the word is shita. Uvay pirushim. There's two meanings of this. Aleph, the first one means hataya, and beis shtos, the second one means folly. Hataynog gam bedvarim hamitarim hu ha'avar al darchei Torah. Pleasure, even for things which are permitted, is passing over on the ways of Torah. It comes from the Yetzer Hara, shematas adam midarach emes, that he leans a person away from the true path. And he is also the one that goes up and he prosecutes, which means that he leans towards negative. So that is the essence of what we needed from the last paragraph to move on. So parak beis uv emes, in truth, ushtus neira, the concept of doing an avera, which we were referring to before, that the Yetzer Hara leads him from the path of truth. Really, it's an awesome shtus. It really doesn't make sense. Does it make sense that this is the good that a person, the choicest of all creations, should lean himself towards? Because behold, there are many kinds of pleasure. Like the pleasure of a food which is sweet and well balanced to the palate. This is probably the lowest kind of tainug. Animals passion indulge in this tainug day in, day out. And so too other physical taivas for physical corporeal things, which these are literally animalistic pleasures. Because an animal is also drawn after things which are good and well balanced for it to enjoy, according to its nature. And it doesn't know of any good besides for this, and it's drawn after it. the Mailam is that, but above this, a more refined Tainog. Bekel Arev.
What's that?
What?
Techno? What's that?
Tainog, a pleasure.
Ah.
A more refined pleasure, Bekel Arev, is with a sweet voice, Tainog Ruchni Yeser, which is an even more spiritual Tainog. It's still a pleasure. It's still like, it's still something to enjoy.
Pleasure?
Yeah, but it's
Like what?
music. Music is a more spiritual pleasure. When we say more spiritual, we don't mean that it's holier. We mean that it's less involved in physicality. It's something that you appreciate, not just with your body, not just because your body is enjoying a good pleasure.
Any type of music, not just like say popular music or whatever music.
Yeah, it's not a notion of holiness. It's a notion of spirituality. There's a difference between holiness means that it's closer to Hashem.
Yeah.
And spirituality means that it's more removed from physicality. Now, usually you would say that they move in the same direction, but not necessarily. So the Mailim is that above this, who Tainog ben Yonei Hamidis. You have a Tainog in emotional properties. Like when a person does a favor for another person, that there's an immense pleasure for the person that does the favor. When you do a favor for someone, and we're going to now make a divide between someone that deserves it and someone that doesn't deserve it. So let's start with someone that deserves it. When you do a favor for someone and the person deserves it, and you give someone a gift because they deserve it, or you pay your workers on time because they deserve it, because they worked for it, or whatever. There's a satisfaction that comes in being able to provide goodness to someone else. And this is a pleasure.
Like you giving classes as well gives you pleasure.
Me giving classes in a certain sense gives pleasure. It actually says that more than the calf wishes to suckle, the cow wants to give milk. And it say that Tamei Chachamim that they enjoy giving shiurim, they enjoy giving classes because more than the people wanna hear Torah, the Tamei Chachamim want to teach Torah.
Makes sense.
So yeah, there's a tainug involved in giving this class. I hope it's not too selfish, but this is how it is.
Yeah.
There's a certain level in this that is if the giving is completely natural and there's no intellect involved. That is to say that a person will do good with whoever he comes across without considering if doing good for them is good or bad. If a person gives taka good without any checking about if it's good or bad, then this is also an animalistic pleasure, because you're.
Sorry again.
Can what?
You repeat that again?
If a person gives things away, or a person is kind to everyone, but he doesn't consider who he's giving to, then it's also an animalistic pleasure, because this is something that we're drawn after. Firstly, I think animals can be kind too. It's not to suggest that animals can't be kind when we say that this is a more refined, a more spiritual pleasure. But the notion of giving without any seichel involved is more animalistic. I know someone, and someone was trying to solicit a donation from them, and the person said, "This is my set donation that I give to shluchim and people that aren't from in town." So the person said, "Well, why do you only give to people in your neighborhood?" So the person could have said, it says in the Gemara that the poor people in your province or your locale take precedence over poor people in another place. Right. But he didn't say that. He said, I give in my town, I give in my neighborhood, because I see the people in my neighborhood, and it's something that I feel more that they need help. You're on shlichus, and you're doing a good thing, and I'm giving you a donation. But if I would give to every shliach, whatever, it wouldn't be the same. I just don't feel what you're doing. It's like I haven't been in your Chabad house, whatever it is, and I can't just fly out to every Chabad house of every shliach that invites me over. But I'm here in my town, and I just feel it. So the person said, you're giving tzedakah like a behemoth. He said you're giving tzedakah because you feel it. You're not giving tzedakah because you're deciding which mesas are important. And he said, you know what? you're right. Doesn't change facts, but you're right. Because it is, in a sense, and it is in a sense, it's animalistic. It's the notion some people just have a desire to be kind, to do good. Some people have a desire, and if they indulge in that desire also, without considering using it for the good, then, it's also negative. Some people are, in a sense, stingy. They don't like to give money. Now, sometimes a person needs to acknowledge that, no, now is the time that I need to give a donation, regardless of whether or not I want to. But sometimes it's important for a person to be able to say no. Some people don't have the ability to say no. And it's a very sad and scary thing when a person will be fooled by any con man or any ruse that a person will pull that they really deserve money because they just don't know how to say no. They don't know how to say, even though there's only a 99.9% chance that there's actually a Nigerian prince that needs my help to get the money that's locked in his accounts. You need to be able to say no to something like that. So everything needs to take a balance. But right now we're focusing mainly on the aspect of giving things. So we're saying that
happened to me when I was 12 years old or 11.
The Nigerian prince.
Yeah, and I thought it was real because I was a kid.
Yeah, I'm saying. So the point is you need to have a certain level of seichel in this, and when you're a kid, obviously you don't know.
Yeah.
So this is and the
I
more
kept it a secret. I didn't want to tell anyone.
Well, now we know it's known at this point.
Yeah.
But no, when you're a kid, and this is why it's an important distinction, because you don't expect that from a kid, because a kid doesn't have that level of seichel. He doesn't know the world in that sense enough. He just thinks that, a person needs help. A good-natured kid, he wants to help out. But when a person grows older and they grow wiser, they get more seichel, they get more intellect. They need to be able to make a distinction of when a person deserves good and when a person when that good wouldn't be good for me, and sometimes the good wouldn't be good for the other person.
Yeah.
So. Yeah.
Sometimes if you give charity or you give money to someone on the street but they look like they're a drug addict, you are incentivizing them to keep doing their addiction.
Yeah. So these are things we need to appreciate. And by the way, giving the guy money would probably feel good. Even though he's a drug addict, on the street, he would say thank you. He'd give you a warm smile, and you'd feel like, wow, I made that guy's day better. Like I just helped him, but you didn't really help him. But it would feel good. I know this from the times that I've accidentally given people and then realized that they're drug addicts later in life, like 2 blocks away. I'd be like, oh, wait a second, that guy didn't look normal, but it still feels good. The feeling feels good. And even though I know that the guy's probably going to go, and I feel bad that I ruined his life a little bit, but it still feels good. So, but that's not the way they're supposed to be. Kim called midas b'nei adam tzarich liyas v'seichel. All of the midas of a human needs to be based on intellect. And this also needs to be like with the concept of kindness, which needs to be based on good and bad. Sometimes you need to give kindness to someone that doesn't deserve it. But it needs to be done in a way that even though the person doesn't deserve it now, but you have a plan that it's going to accomplish something in the future. Such as Avraham Avinu, that he would give food and drink even to Arabs. And these Arabs were idolaters. They didn't deserve kindness. And also they were in the middle of the desert. And Avraham Avinu was partially like the first liach. He set up his tent, mamash, in the middle of nowhere. And his entire kavanah was so that he could have a place where people can daven and where people can eat kosher food. Avraham Avinu was mamash like the archetypal shliach. So, but he went out there and he gave food even to the Arabs. And his intention behind this was to make godliness known in this world and to bring Hashem's creations closer to godliness. And as it says in the Gemara, Al Pasuk of Vayikra Sham B'Shem Hashem Kel Olam. It says that Avraham called out there in the name of Hashem, the Lord of the world. Amar Reish Lakish said, Al Tikre Vayikra, don't read the word Vayikra, which means he called out, El Vayakri, that he made others call out. And the Rebbe Rashab brings that Lamed Librius Likre Sham B'Shem Hashem Kel Olam, that he taught the creations, he taught the humans to over there to call out how to call out in the name of Hashem, or just to call out, not how to call out, but he taught them to call out. Shehikri Avram Avinu l'shmei shel Hakadosh Baruch Hu b'fi kol ever v'shav. That Avram Avinu made Hashem's name be called in the name of every person who passed and rested there. Ketzad.
That's all right.
Ketzad. How is this? La'achar she'achlu v'shasu. After they would eat and they would drink, Amdu levarchei la'Avram. They would stand up to give a bracha to Avram. Amr lahem. He said to them, "Did you eat for me? Mishal l'keir l'machaltem. You ate from Hashem." Give praise and also give praise, another word for praise, and bless the one who spoke and created the world. And this was the ultimate kavanah of Avraham Avinu's kindness, that he was kind to everyone, even people that didn't necessarily deserve it, but there was always the end goal of bringing them closer to Elikos, of bringing them closer to godliness.
He did it for the sake of heaven.
He indulged in this tainog for the sake of heaven. And in Midrash Rabbah, Isa, it says, Avram hayimekabel se'evrim es hashavim. Let me show you. Eichlim v'sheisim. Avram Avinu would receive people, and he would have them eat and drink. Amr lahem, he would say, Baruch Hu, bless him. Amru lai, manamar. They said, what are you saying? Amr lahem, Amru Baruch kel olam shachal mishalai. Say, blessed is the Lord of the world that we've eaten from him. And if he would accept upon himself Hashem and he would say a bracha, then he would eat and he would drink and he would go. And if he wouldn't, if not, he would tell the people that you need to pay what's due. What do you have on me? So he would say to them, Chad kasit. It says in parentheses, the Aruch explains that it's a kind of vessel, the chamer. So one vessel of wine, b'yud pelurin, for the price of yud pelurin, which was a kind of coin in those days. V'chad liter the kufar, and 1 liter of meat, b'yud pelurin, also for the price of yud pelurin. V'chad igul the rifta, and 1 loaf of bread, b'yud pelurin, also for yud pelurin. And Avraham Avinu would tell them, "Man yav lach chamra b'midbra. Who will give you wine in the desert? Man yav lach kopa b'midbra. Who will give you meat in the desert? Man yav lach yigola b'midbra. Who's going to give you bread in the desert?" They deliver to the outback.
Yeah.
They deliver to the outback.
They're expanding.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I guess Jesse's could charge outlandish prices unless you bench.
Does that count though? Because we've spoken previously about being counted in minyan with regards to when the person wants to be there or not. Because he's kind of blackmailed them to an extent. I've heard this midrash before, and I'm troubled by it because he blackmailed them effectively into blessing Hashem.
So we can, we have time. We're almost at the end. So the reason why you're not allowed to force someone to be by a minion is because what you're doing at that point is you're, in a sense, stealing their freedom. Now, anytime that I make a bracha by virtue of taking away someone else's freedom, whenever there's a notion of doing a mitzvah that comes at the expense of someone else's anything, if it means that I'm borrowing his land without his permission and I don't necessarily know that he would want me to use it or anything to that effect, especially if it's like not literally stealing his food, but anything like that, you're not supposed to make a bracha. So when it comes to davening, you're not allowed to do a whole chazar sashatz by forcing someone to be part of the minyan, because you're making a bracha while you're in a sense stealing from that guy. And what kind of bracha is that to Hashem? So as far as this goes, on the other hand, firstly, people have a natural desire to this is embedded in human nature to be close to Hashem. So Avraham Avinu doing this was bringing out something more essential in them. But besides for this, Avraham Avinu's point wasn't false. The point was, yes, food in the desert, in the middle of nowhere where I set up shop, should cost you an outlandish price. Supply and demand, and there's literally no supply that's supposed to be in the desert. So if you look at it as proportional, then the closer it gets to zero, the closer the demand gets to infinity. I mean, the closer the price gets to infinity. So, Be'etzem, Avraham Avinu's kind of was right. Now, Avraham Avinu didn't force him to do anything. He said you could pay. Maybe this is why he said you could pay in a sense, because he didn't want it to be a mamish, a forced bracha. But his price was a true price. And he said, I'll forgive your tab if you bench. And then, when you have just a little bit of pressure, it becomes easy to say, wait a second, there is an Eibusher in the world. I can bless the Eibusher. It's easier to get convinced when you have that, like a little bit of pressure. So, does that answer the question? Oh yeah. So man dahava chame, hayaksa dahava akile, and he would see that it would bother the person. Amar baruch elam shachal mishalei. He would say baruch elam shachal mishalei. Blessed is the Lord of the world from whom we have eaten. And so all of the midas need to be through seichel. So just we can give a recap. We still have a little bit of time. Not enough to start the next paragraph, but to give a recap from the Kitzur. In pleasures you have different levels, one higher than the other. The pleasure for well-balanced foods and the similar and the like in physical pleasures is a very lowly pleasure, and it's an animalistic pleasure. You also have the pleasure of a well-balanced voice. And there's also a pleasure that is in doing good, sometimes for someone that deserves it, and sometimes for a person that doesn't deserve it, for the sake of something that will come out of it. So, just something that I want to point out, because we do have 4 more minutes, I could at least use a little bit of that. Is it possible, this is just an idea, is it possible that a person could indulge in the kind of pleasure that Avraham Avinu had, and that it could also be not completely the Shem Shemayim? Is it possible? Because the Friedrich Rebbe in the Kitzur doesn't mention, he seems to count Avraham Avinu's way of doing kindness without saying that Avraham Avinu did it in the right way. He just lists it as one of the 3 kinds of pleasure that we discussed in this paragraph. There's more to come, but you're going to really learn how to be grub in Kuntreis Umayan. That's one thing for sure. You're going to learn how to have a lot of pleasure. It's also going to tell you how not to do it, but it's going to tell you how to have a lot of pleasure. But he seems to list it as not one of the things like something that's not. He lists it as like one of the pleasures. He says you have physical pleasure, and you have pleasure for a good sound, and you have pleasure of doing kindness, even if it's in the way that Avraham Avinu did it. So, seemingly, it's possible for a person to mimic Avraham Avinu in all respects, and to still be, in a sense, indulging in pleasure. The difference and the ikar is that Avraham Avinu wasn't doing it to indulge in his pleasure. This was how he was. This is how he was naturally. His inclination was to do kindness, and that definitely gave him pleasure. It's not to say that he was out there in the desert and he was hating every second of it. He was loving every second of it, to the point that when he had his bris milah, on the 3rd day afterwards, he was sitting in the heat of the day looking for guests to be able to bring into his tent. It was so much so that Hashem brought malachim to disguise as Arabs to beat his guests, mamish. Avraham Avinu had such an intense pleasure from this that even though he was literally sick, he had the bris milah, and it was Isaac b'mitzvah. The Rebbe has a whole sikha where he explains that the pain of the bris milah is a necessary part of the bris milah, and that's why Hashem made Avraham Avinu suffer for those 3 days. Why Hashem couldn't just heal him right at the beginning? But Avraham Avinu was mamash suffering, and he was Isaac b'mitzvah. He was potter from doing anything else. He was Isaac b'mitzvah mamash. And he sat there waiting for guests. His natural inclination was for this, and it gave him pleasure. And if it wouldn't be giving him pleasure, it would be very difficult to be able to withstand that pain, to sit out there. It's the pleasure, the desire for pleasure, is able to overcome most kinds of pain. But Avraham Avinu also went to the Akedah. He also offered a son, and that showed that he was able to serve Hashem without, his natural inclination. But to say that he didn't get pleasure, obviously Avraham Avinu got pleasure from being out there. He got pleasure from being out there welcoming guests. The difference is that Avraham Avinu, his ultimate goal was for Hashem. Even though it gave him pleasure. It's not wrong to have pleasure in Avodas Hashem. But his ultimate goal was to serve Hashem. A person could do exactly what Avraham Avinu does. A person could go out on shlichus, and a person could say that they're trying to bring in people and for Yiddishkeit and everything. What's the ultimate goal? And there's no like shluchim over here, so I don't feel like I'm giving Moser, which is good, Baruch Hashem. But and obviously this isn't the kind of thing that you need to like. This is like the kind of thing that you need to farbring about, like 4 o'clock in the morning after a little bit of mashka with people that you're very, very close friends with. But you can't. But it's important, and in any aspect really in Avodas Hashem. Avodas Hashem can very well be pleasurable. But is the ultimate reason Avodas Hashem, or is the ultimate reason that serving Hashem is a geshmak? And it's important to recognize that even though a person could be mamash, doing the same thing as a Rama Avinu, it could be in a different way. What matters is the ikra. That's what's emphasized in the paragraph. Seeing as that's not what's necessary to carry us forward, the Frierdiker Rebbe doesn't mention the difference that a Rama Avinu did it in that way, so for him it was good. But for someone else, it wouldn't be good. But what's necessary is just the notion that a person could be doing that, and it could still be considered a kind of base pleasure. So that's why the Frierdiker Rebbe doesn't mention that, and that's why you can be dayak in the Kitzur. And what we need to carry us forward is to know that there's 3 kinds of pleasure so far that we've discussed, which is physical kinds of pleasure, then the more spiritual pleasure of good music, and the even more refined pleasure of investing your emotions and like doing kindness, for example, but using your emotions. So that's a wrap.